Homicide as a repeater. It's a Class A felony. Going to impose life imprisonment without the possibility of extended supervision.
Now it's time for our opening statement spotlight. Taylor Schabusiness sentenced to spend the rest of her life in prison without the possibility of parole. And this morning, we're shining a spotlight on her appearance and her demeanor in the courtroom. She went before the judge in a spit hood. Yeah, that's what that is around her face. It's commonly used when a prisoner has a history of spitting or biting other people. And we know she's got quite a history of acting out in the courtroom. Remember when she attacked her attorney? Remember this? Remember when she made the little finger gun motion when the judge was talking? Yeah, so it's not surprising at all that she had on that spit hood so that nobody is attacked in the courtroom and has to touch her spit or so that she can't bite anybody. Yeah, she's a maniac. She really is. And even with the spit hood covering much of her face, we still got to see her eyes and her body movements. And we really could look at who she is as she glared at victim Shadtherian's uncle after he told her he hopes that she suffers the same fate as her idol, Jeffrey Dahmer. Take a look.
You know, you can't blame it on childhood. You know, there's help out there. And if you take the path to go get the help, you wouldn't be in this situation right now. None of us would be in this situation. But to take the cowardly path that you did and to make other people suffer because you were suffering is pretty. So that name Taylor business fits you well. And I'm not a praying man, but after Judge Walsh's sentences today, I will pray that you meet the same fate as your idolistic Jeffrey Dahmer. So have a good life, business.
Oh, round of applause there. That was a moment. And you, my friends who were watching live as I was, you know, that was a moment with the clapping. Let me bring back in my guests, jury consultant and human behavior expert Susan Constantine, and psychotherapist and the CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacy, with us this morning. Wonderful to see you both on this Wednesday. I have some clips for you to take a look at and give us some analysis. So let's begin when Taylor Schabusiness's father, you know, who's also a prisoner, speaks in the courtroom. Let's watch.
Sure, I don't think she needs life imprisonment. I mean, the mistakes were made. You know, her not being in the right state of mind when it happened, you know, has a lot to do with it. Her whole life, she was a good kid. You know, drugs mess people up. It's sad for me to sit up here, you know, knowing what happened and stuff, and knowing my daughter the way, you know, she was, and the way I know she still can be. It's just night and day. She was always a loving, caring person. You know, she liked to have fun, you know, liked to joke around a lot. You know, she's not the monster that, you know, she's being made out to be. That's for sure.
We know the judge disagreed with that, don't we, ladies? Susan Constantine, let me begin with you first on this. We've got some video for you to look at. I know you've seen the sentencing. You were watching her closely. Tell us what you were picking up on in terms of her body language, please.
Well, all you can see is her eyes, but your eyes will tell you a lot about how she's internally processing. Every muscle around the ocular eye, the actual eye, you can see them shifting and moving. So what I see in her, there's a couple of things. One is suspicion. When you see her head still and her eyes just move, these are not dancing eyes. This is not a medical condition. This is a person that has a high level of suspicion. It's not something that has distracted her to where she's turning her head and looking. The other thing is you can see her smirking and smiling underneath that spit mask. How you can see that is because her cheeks raise and her eyes narrow. So there's that sinister contempt, that duping delight, kind of a combination of emotion that she's feeling towards the person that is actually delivering the information. So she thinks this is a joke. She's very amused by it, self-amusement. It's very chilling. I personally think she is inhabited by evil.
Oh, I like what you're saying there, Susan Constantine. I know a lot of our incredible Court TV viewers agree with you that this is a sick, sinister individual we're dealing with. I have to say, the award for, what do I want to say, just, you know, humanity and love goes to Shathirian's father. I mean, oh my gosh. When he got up there and said he wished her no harm, I think jaws were dropping all over the place. I want to play this clip, and after it, Dr. Janie, I'm coming to you.
I believe everybody makes bad choices, and maybe not to the scale, but I think there's a lot of hope for you. I think, you know, you can make use of your time and be a better person and do great things yet, you know, so it does no good for me to hate you, you know. I know you got a heart. I know you got a mind, and I wish you no harm. And I hope things go well for you. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you.
Oh my gosh, what a saint. What a saint. Dr. Janie, how does one get there after experiencing so much trauma?
You know, when we are hearing the father's voice, you can hear his sincerity, you can hear how genuine he is. And when people get to this place where they are facing the person who murdered, not only murdered, but brutally murdered somebody that they love, you know, we can make some assumptions. Some assumptions can be that, you know, this probably is a man of faith, that he has faith that there's something larger and greater than what is happening in front of him. We know people get there through their faith window. We also know that people get there because they also know that carrying the anger, carrying all the grief for a prolonged period of time affects their health. So having to understand that this person that he's representing, his son who's no longer here, he has to be well and he has to be able to speak on his behalf. So when we look at the power of forgiveness, the power of faith, we look at the power of that they are the representation of the person who's not here. It is the majority of people, it takes them a long time to get to that place, but what an outstanding man to be able to represent his son well, and the power of forgiveness and the power of standing there and his genuineness, and you can hear his sincerity in speaking. And I think that was a role model in many ways to show that his ability to be able to get to that place as he's facing someone who's brutally murdered his son is commendable.
It sure is. So well said, Dr. Janie. Thank you for that. You know, Taylor Schabusiness is a dangerous individual, and the judge acknowledged that in doling out her sentence. I mean, there's going to be no chance of her seeing the light of day. She will, of course, have a mental health evaluation, have to comply with any recommended treatment. It was something we talked about at length on the show yesterday. Dr. Janie, back to you on this point. I know you haven't had the benefit of an evaluation with Taylor Schabusiness. We wish you could evaluate her and then tell us everything. But if you were to, at this juncture, she's off to prison and she's going to see a doctor there. If you were that doctor, what questions would you be asking her and why, please?
With someone like her, my assumption would be that she would be really in a place of not trusting mental health professionals. She would be in a place of probably being combative from what I've seen. Again, not working with her directly. But working with people like her, it takes a long time to really get a good evaluation. It's just the reality of the situation. So having to build some level of consistency, building some level of trust, before we even get to the questioning of what has actually happened, there has to be an understanding of who she is. And my questioning would probably start off with understanding who she is before we actually get to the actual events or what her mindset was during that time. And that's just my assumption based off of what I'm seeing and what I'm reading. It probably would take a long time to really get to a place where we can really get some traction to really understand her mindset and who she is in a way that's true and that way that's relevant. Based off of what I'm seeing, she's probably very distrustful trusting of a lot of people around her.
Appreciate it, Dr. Janie. That's a mind I would not want to go inside of, that is for sure. Susan Constantine, I want to end the segment with you, please. And we know that it was difficult to see everything because of that spit hood. You give us marvelous insight into her eyes, all of that. I'm curious, what does her posture tell you? When she was sitting there, sometimes she's back in the chair, sometimes leaning in. Could you kind of tell us, we'll pull up the video again, what those movements might say as well in terms of what she thinks about the proceedings?
Well, when we're looking at the videos, when she's leaning back and leaning forward, you have to take it into context of what's being said. So if she doesn't agree, she may lean back. If she's interested, she may lean forward. So you can't take things out of context. It has to mirror or to mask, so to speak, what actually is saying, because they have to sync together. So movement, any sort of movement is a change of thought, change of ideas, change of processing, but it also could be other things. It could be that she's uncomfortable. She's been sitting in that chair. Like when you're kind of thinking, well, I've got something I have to say, and they might be trying to hold back those thoughts. To Dr. Jamie's point, one of the things I also want to kind of hitchhike off from is that if you were in that investigative room and you've got this this chilling case in front of this person in front of you, first of all, I wouldn't enter that room without shackles on. The other thing is that Dr. Jamie is right. You want to build that rapport. You want to create that empathy-based listening so that you can understand where that person has been, so you can have a better understanding about how to be able to counsel her.
Oh, definitely. You know, and that's a great point, Susan. I see her leaning in a lot to her attorney. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm not an expert like the two of you are in body language and in mental health and human behavior. The way she leans toward him, it tells me I think there's some trustworthiness with her counsel, which is good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Susan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what she's doing. That's the only person she has, right? That's the only person she has. She knocked the other one out on the floor. We saw that.
Yes, she did.
Right?
Oh, my
so
gosh.
She does tend to lean in and does listen to him. She leans back. She processes. So there's a lot tying it all together. You have to sync the words with what's being said and then watch her body language, see how it moves.
Always fascinating to talk to you both, Susan Constantine, Dr. Janie Lacy. Thank you so much for your expert analysis this morning. See you both back here on Opening Statements soon, please. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit a quick break. Here's what we've got.